Hello, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here then I'm so happy that you decided to join us today. Today's video we're going to talk about my trainee PWP interview. I had this interview just before Christmas, so I just want to talk about what it was like, what questions came up, etc. so that if you have a trainee PWP interview coming up, or to be fair, any psychology related interview, hopefully this will give you some idea of things to prepare. So let's just start the video off by explaining what is a PWP. So if you don't know, PWP stands for Psychological Wellbeing Practitioner. What this job was a trainee position of a psychological wellbeing practitioner. So for the first year while you're training, you work in service with patients on a placement, as well as going to uni alongside to sort of like develop your knowledge and skills of different low intensity therapies. And PWPs work within a service called IAPT. They deliver low intensity intervention. So they deliver interventions at what is called step 2 level, and it's kind of like a guided self-help. So people with sort of low intensity, non-complex anxiety, depression, OCD, etc. will go to a PWP for 6 to 8 sessions and see if it helps. If it doesn't help, then what happens is that people are stepped up to step 3, which is high intensity CBT, and that lasts for much longer. Generally, as a PWP, the work is quite hard. My boyfriend, for example, is expected to see about 30 patients a week. So there's a lot to it. You're very busy, but it does depend on the service. Some services will expect you to see less, some services will expect you to see more. And as a trainee, you'll slowly build up to this number. They won't just throw you in and make you see 30 patients straight away. So the interview consisted of a role play at the beginning and then 6 questions following that. Well, actually technically 7, but one of them was kind of in association with the role play. And 10 minutes before the interview, they sent a document which was actually sort of like a doctor's referral letter to our emails to read before the role play. So what the role play was it was essentially just an assessment session. So we were given very brief details about this person, and then we had 10 minutes to conduct an assessment to the best of our abilities. For a PWP role, I think that if there is a role play, it's always going to be either an assessment or some sort of risk assessment type role play. So those are definitely the 2 things to make sure that you've sort of made a note of what you would say and what you would ask. For assessments, I think the main sort of points that you want to get down are what the problem is, when this started, sort of details around this problem, a risk assessment for suicide and self-harm, etc., for both themselves and their family. So you will need to ask if they've got kids, etc. But there's resources online, so just have a little Google or look on Instagram or something, and you'll be able to find some sort of key points to include in an assessment role play. After the role play, they then asked me, so what do you think went well from that, and what do you think you could have done better? And this question is always really hard, I think. I can't remember exactly what it was, but there was something which I thought I could have expanded on more, so I did bring that up. But otherwise, I thought I had covered most of the main points that needed to be covered. So that was the question straight after the role play. Then next they asked, give an example of a time when you found it difficult to be empathetic towards someone and how you dealt with that. So that's quite an interesting question, and I guess it makes sense because if you're in IAPT, you don't know what kind of people you're going to come across. So as a practitioner, you need to be able to show empathy, or at least act empathetic towards a wide variety of people, even people that do not agree or align with your own values and morals. Question 2 was, and actually this kind of question came up in almost all of my interviews that I had across the board, not just PWP. So this question was, what are important aspects to consider when organising a group? Question number 3 was, you have a meeting with your manager and they tell you that you're not reaching your recovery rate. How would that make you feel and what would you do? And what I said for this one was that I would take a step back. That obviously initially I would feel a bit upset, but I would take a step back and I would want to look at why I haven't been reaching my recovery rate. Were the people that I was working with not necessarily step 2 appropriate? Did I have to step them up? And then what I would do is discuss with my clinical supervisor and line manager maybe ways that I can improve, and yeah, that's it really. Question 4 I thought was quite interesting. They said you're walking down the street and you pass a bus stop where somebody is shouting racial abuse at somebody else at this bus stop. What would you do? And yeah, so it's an interesting question. And the way that I answered it was that, to be honest, I would not be inclined to sort of confront the abuser, mainly out of concern for my own personal safety, but I would definitely be inclined to go up to the person that is receiving the abuse and try and distract them and check in and check that they're okay, etc. Question 4, and now this is a classic one with PWP work because it's so, you are very busy, and especially in your training year you've got to juggle uni work, personal development work, service work, all of those things, and you need to make sure that you're like on top of them all. So it is a lot. So how do you organise and manage your time? And I think that this is an important question because I think that it will come up a lot across PWP interviews. And then the final question, which again I've heard comes up a lot across PWP interviews, is how do you maintain work-life balance? And even if this question doesn't come up exactly like this, there will be something like, how do you maintain self-care, etc., etc. So yeah, those were all of the questions that I was asked. I hope that you find it I hope that you found that useful. I think the best way to think about interview questions, if you're trying to plan for them, is to think of solid examples for each of your answers of the questions. That's what they're going to be looking for at the end of the day. Just to go through some other possibilities of what they might ask, and these I kind of heard from other friends that have done PWP interviews. So one of the questions which has come up a lot is about inclusivity, and for example, why my LGBTQ plus populations struggle accessing mental health help or struggle accessing the service. And finally, 2 things that I think are really important to know, both for your application and for the interview, is what is the stepped care model. And what it is it's starting with the intervention that uses the least resources and then stepping somebody up to using more resources if it's necessary. And so that happens in IAPT because most of the time people will start off at step 2 with a PWP, and then if they need to be stepped up, they will be stepped up to step 3, which is a high intensity CBT therapist. And the most important thing is to show that you understand what the role is and really show that you understand how intense and difficult the training and the role can be, because the training is funded, so they want to know that people really understand what the role is going to consist of and that they are going to finish the training and stick around for a couple of years afterwards. Hopefully you found all of that helpful. If you have a PWP interview coming up, then good luck. I mean, if you have any job interview coming up, then good luck. I hope it goes well. And yeah, hopefully see you in the next video. Bye!